वासुदेवेन्द्र योगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते. So now we are in the fourth section of this text called Tattva Bodah, where the Jiva Ishvara Aikyam is being discussed. So how the never changing Brahman and the ever changing Maya with its three attributes, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, come together to create the world. So first the 5 elements are produced, and through a combination of these, the 24 elements that the different elements that constitute the creation are formed. So we have seen that, and we also understood that the Jiva, as we call the individual self, which has 3 bodies, and the Ishvara, the total, which also has 3 bodies, are just a reflection of the total. The individual reflection is called as the Jiva, the total reflection is called as Ishvara. The point we have to notice that both are reflections, but it is like a reflection of the sun in a mirror. When you reflect through a small mirror which is already covered with dust, the reflection will be very limited. When you have a large mirror, clean mirror, and when you reflect through that medium, the light that is produced is much more. So basically, it appears that the Jiva and the Ishvara are different because the reflecting media is different. So this is what causes the notion, the reflecting media is what causes the notion that the individual and the total are different. But it has to be understood that only the reflecting media is different. The reflection is of the total Brahman. So up to this we had seen. Now the author further goes to the next verse, which says, Evamu padi bheda jiveshvara bheda drishtyar vat paryantam tishtati tavat paryantam janma maranadi rupa samsaro na nivartate. So the author says, as long as this difference is there between Ishvara and Jiva, the sufferings will continue. So all the sufferings that we go through are because of the misconception that we are different from the Ishvara. So the sufferings continue in our lives. We have so many issues, health, physical issues, mental issues. We go through emotional disturbances. We go through old age. And of course, finally, death happens. And again, the cycle continues. So, this cycle of birth and death is called as samsara. So, samsara continues mainly because of this misconception that the self and the total are different. So this is the main cause of sufferings. So basically, one has to understand that the problem is the self. The solution is also the self. You can't blame the planets or your people around you, or the conditions, the weather conditions or the climatic conditions, or this person or that person for all the sufferings, which is what we tend to do. My planets are not in line, that is why I am going through this problem. My neighbor is creating issues, that is why I am not able to this thing. My family members are not listening to me, that's why I have all these problems. My body is not okay, I always have some issues. I have different diseases, I am a diabetic and I have a heart problem. And so this kind of thing always we attribute to various things which are not in our control. So this cycle will continue as long as we feel that there are external factors which make our life miserable. Now, how do we solve this problem? The problem can be solved only through knowledge. The misconception that you are different from Ishvara can be understood only through knowledge. Through discriminative knowledge, which is what the scriptures tell you. So the problem, the more the distance between you and Ishvara, the more the problems. As you lessen the distance, you will find that the problems come down. And the awareness that you are that Ishvara, the moment it dawns upon you, that awareness, the problems disappear completely. So the process is to bring that, lessen the distance between you and Ishvara, and finally understand that they are one and the same, whereby the problems automatically drop off. So to achieve this goal, we need to have knowledge. So that is what is the solution to this problem. Now moving further, the next verse, Tasmat Karanat na Jiveshwarayo Bheda Buddhi Swikarya. Again, he just emphasizes one should not accept the difference between the Jiva and Ishvara, or Jiva and Paramatma. You can call Ishvara Paramatma. So as long as we keep on thinking that these two are different, the problems will continue. So understanding that both are the one and the same is the only solution to this problem. Further, he says, Nanu sahakaryasya kinchijnasya jivasya nirahankarasya sarvagya aseshwarasya Tattvamasiti mahavakya kathama bheda buddhihi syad ubayor viruddha dharma krantatvat. Now, here he wants to bring in to prove the oneness of Ishvara and Jiva. He wants to bring in a term called Mahavakya. Now, Mahavakya is a statement in Upanishads which reveals the oneness of Ishvara and Jiva. So we have different such Mahavakyas in different texts which reveal this oneness. So one of the Mahavakyas that is very popular is Tattvamasi. Tat Tad Tvam Asi. So this is a Mahavakya which appears in the Upanishad called Chandogya Upanishad from the Samaveda. So this Mahavakya is Tad Tvam Asi. So what we understand from Tad Tvam Asi or Tattvam Asi, Tat means that, and that means we are referring to the total, which is the all pervading Ishvara. Tvam is the self. So this Mahavakya says that and the self are the same. Tad Tvam Asi, or in Latin they say thou art that. So you are that. So you can call this Mahavakya as a great equation. It is trying to equate Ishvara and the Jiva. Now this seems to be a very fantastic kind of an equation where very difficult for us to accept. How can I be the Ishvara? I am a limited Jiva. I don't have the kind of powers that Ishvara has. Ishvara is all pervading. He is so powerful. He has got the entire wealth. He has got all the things that are needed. I am only an individual. I have only limited powers. I go through so many problems. Ishvara doesn't have any problems. In fact, I look upon to Ishvara to solve my problems. So how can I be the same as Ishvara? So if somebody says you are Ishvara, naturally there will be a reaction that don't talk nonsense. You are talking something out of your hat, whatever. This thing, it's a very unacceptable statement. So this will be the first reaction for all of us, because that is how our perception is. Now, when the Vedantic text says Tattvamasi, so there is an equation that the total is equal to you, the individual. Now, per se, any equation, we have to look at it from different ways. Now, why is there an equation? In an equation there is a left hand side and there is a right hand side. Now, why do you need an equation? Because some things are not clear. We are not sure why this is equal to that. If you say 10 is equal to 10, there is no equation. You know it is 10 is equal to 10. You don't need anything to understand that 10 is equal to 10. But if you have an equation, a plus b the whole square is equal to a square plus b square plus 2ab. If you don't know mathematics, or you are just learning mathematics, you will not know how this is possible. On one side you have some a plus b the whole square, and the other side you have some other figures. They don't seem to match. So how do you say that this is equal to that? So you need the help of a maths teacher. So you give a value, okay, a is equal to 3, b is equal to 2, so 3 plus 2 the whole square, then you put 3 square plus 2 square plus 2 into 3 into 2. Then when you see, then you find that both are equal. So here, to understand that Tattvamasi, per se the equation doesn't seem to match, because you are saying something which is so huge and this thing, comparing with a small entity, and saying these two are equal. Now, anything has a direct meaning. Any word or a sentence has a direct meaning and an implied meaning. We call as Vachartha and Lakshartha. Vachartha is direct meaning. Lakshartha is an implied meaning. So, if I say this is a phone, there's a direct meaning. You don't have to read too much into that. This is a phone, that's all. Now, certain things are implied which is understood by human intelligence. For example, if I say I am writing, it implies that my hand is writing. My body is not writing, my mind is not writing. So when I say, I don't have to say my hand is writing. When I say I am writing, that means my hand is writing, it is obvious. Or when you say I am fat, it implies that you're meaning the body, because the mind cannot be fat or thin. So we don't have to understand, we don't have to take that directly. We directly understand the implied meaning behind that. You cannot say, okay, if I am writing or I am fat means your entire system is fat, including your mind. So it is the intelligence automatically filters and gives you the correct picture. Similarly, if you say I am disturbed or I am emotional, so automatically it means the mind. It doesn't mean that your body is emotional or your body is disturbed. So this is the implied meaning and the natural meaning. Now let us apply the same to this Mahavakya. When you say the equation Tat is equal to Tvam. Now directly if you look at the meaning, you will find that there is no equation at all. Suppose I say 8 is equal to 9. You know it cannot be possible. There is no point in trying to solve this equation because 8 can never be equal to 9. Similarly, when you feel that Tat is equal to Tvam, you will feel, okay, this is not a solvable equation because it is meaningless. How can I be equal to the... So here, the Vachartha and Lakshartha, the direct meaning and the implied meaning has to be applied. For that, you need to understand the reflecting medium. You have to segregate the reflecting medium to understand these two. And how do you segregate? It is only possible through knowledge. So we need to use our discrimination to filter and segregate these two to understand the equation. Now there are many things which appear different, but they are one and the same. For example, if I say a bangle is equal to a necklace, this equation sounds very illogical. On one side you have a bangle which you put on your wrist, and the other side you have a necklace which you put on around the neck. So how can you equate these two? But if you understand that both the bangle and the necklace are nothing but gold. So if you go to the source, they are one and the same. Only thing they are appear, the gold in a particular form is called as a bangle, in another form it is called as a necklace. So basically there is no difference between a bangle and a necklace. So this again is an implied meaning. If you take the direct meaning bangle and necklace, they are different completely. But if you go to the implied meaning, then you find that, okay, the source. Now you can say a car is equal to a road. Again, it sounds very ridiculous. The car is driven by petrol, the road is laid with tar. So basically petrol and tar are different forms of the same crude. So again they are, so once we understand the source, then we understand the equation. Otherwise this equation will look unsolvable. So this is how, again you can take even different sizes. You have a pot, you have a vessel made out of clay, you have a small pot, you have a big pot, you have different sizes of pots. So they're all different. But if you understand that it is all clay, then they are all one and the same. So you also have a saying in Tamil, no? Kallakanda Nayakana, Nayakanda Kallakanda. When you see the stone, you don't see the dog. When you see the dog, it is not stone, it is dog. So the same principle, if you understand the implied meaning, then it makes sense. But if you go by the direct meaning, the equation will not match. So here, if we remove the medium of reflection, then Ishvara and Jiva are one and the same. And this can happen only through knowledge, and only this oneness is discussed in our Vedas, or the end part of the Vedas called Upanishads or Veda Anta. So this Ishvara Jiva Aikyam is discussed elaborately in our Vedic text, which is the Vedanta part of the Vedas, which describe or discusses the oneness of the total and the individual. So this is what he says in the next verse also. Iti chenna sthula sukshma sharirabhimani tvam pada vacharthaha upadi vinirmuktam samadida shasampannam shuddham chaitanyam tvamapada laksharthaha. So, if you take the direct meaning of the word Tvam, it implies the three bodies consisting of the causal, Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira and Karana Sharira together. So, this is the Jiva. But if you understand the consciousness behind this, the same with the Evam Sarvagyavadi Vishishta Ishvaraha Tatpada Vachyarthaha. Similarly, with that. So that again, if you look at it directly, you will see that again the total causal body, the total Sukshma Sharira, the total Sthula Sharira together is called as Ishvara. But again, it is also a reflection of the same consciousness. So if you remove that reflecting medium from both these, Tad and Tvam, what remains is only the consciousness. So that is why these two. So that is what he says, Upadhi Shunyam Shuddha Chaitanyam Tatpada Laksharthaha. So free from these upadhis or the medium of reflection, as we saw, if the medium of reflection is removed, what remains is only the pure consciousness. So whether it is a small medium of reflection or the large medium of reflection, but both are only reflections. And they are both, now this consciousness is something which cannot be seen. So people say, how do I know there is consciousness? That you are itself is consciousness. When you say I am, that I am is consciousness. It cannot be seen because you cannot see yourself. Even you cannot see your own face. You need a mirror to see your face. So it cannot be seen. So that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So for some people may say, oh, I have never seen consciousness. How do I know that it exists? We have not seen our brain. Does it mean that it does not exist? So by inference we understand that is a consciousness principle which makes this both the Ishvara and the Jiva to function. So that is what is the never changing principle. It always remains the same. The Maya will keep on changing. Your body will keep on changing. You are born, you grow, you get old, you die. Again take birth. So this cycle keeps on going. But the consciousness principle never changes. It is only a witness to all these events. So that is what. So by filtering this media and using the Vedantic knowledge, so how do you filter this two media which are reflecting media? Through understanding. So, and how do you understand? Through study, through knowledge. And where do you get the knowledge? The knowledge is available in the Vedas, at the end part of the Vedas, which is called Vedanta. So this is how we arrive at the oneness of the total and the individual. So without this, without a mirror, you cannot see your face. So same thing, without the Vedic knowledge, you cannot understand yourself. So it just shows, like a mirror showing you your face. The knowledge, the Vedantic knowledge shows you who you are. So it shows you are that consciousness itself. You are not what you see appear. What you see in a mirror is only the reflection of that. So this is what is Jiva Ishvara Aikyam all about. So once you understand that, then the process of moving towards that goal of ultimately realizing that, because there are so many misconceptions which can be removed only through knowledge, and it's a process. Because at this moment we may feel, oh, I understand this, so I am the total. But the moment we come across a problem, we forget that I am the total, and then we go back to our the wrong thinking. In fact, there's a story where a king was, he had two teachers to guide him. One who was telling him, you are Dvaitam. So he was saying that you are different from God. So ultimately, your goal is to reach that God. The other teacher was teaching Advaita. So he said, you and God are one and the same. There is no difference between you and God. So they always used to give their own opinion, and the king used to listen to both of them. So one day they went on a hunt. So the two gurus also went along with the king, and suddenly one elephant appeared, maybe a slightly mad elephant, which started charging, and the first one to spot the elephant was the one who said, God and you are one and the same. So he said, elephant is coming, and he ran away. And all the people ran here and there. Finally, after the elephant went off, they all assembled together. So this teacher who was teaching the king about Dvaita, that you are different from God and you have to ultimately reach God. So he came to the king and said, you know who was the first one who told that the elephant is coming and run away? So he said, who was it? He said, the person who says God and you are the same. So if he could not see if he says the God, the elephant and you are different, then why did he run away? If he says they are one and the same, he did not have run away. So the king said, yes, you have a point there. Let me call him and ask him. So he called the teacher and said, you are always saying everything is same. Then how come you ran away moment you saw the elephant? Because you say everything is only mithya. It doesn't exist. So he said, yes. When I said mithya, the elephant is also mithya. That I ran away also is mithya. So that if that is mithya, what I said is also mithya. And when I ran away, that is also mithya. So basically, it is a misconception that you are different. But at that moment, it is real. If the elephant is coming, the elephant at that moment is real. And for you to run away is also real. Because if the elephant comes and throws you, you are going to die. So at that moment is real, but when you understand the total, you will understand there is no difference. So that is what Advaita philosophy is all about. So this text is basically a Advaita text which reveals the oneness of the self and the total. So all are including all the texts, including Bhagavad Gita and most of the Upanishads, or all the Upanishads, everything talk only about the oneness of Ishvara and Jiva. So if we understand that, then all the problems disappear, because the entire problem is because of misconceptions. So this is what the text is. So we started by saying the self-knowledge is possible only if you have certain qualifications. So we had described in the first section about the qualifications that are required. Then he came to the study of the microcosm, what you are made up of. Then he explained the macrocosm, which the everything else is made up of. The entire creation is made up of. And then now in this section, he is connecting these two. What is the connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm? And ultimately we arrive at the fact that there is no difference. It's only a perception that they are different. And this perception is natural because that is how it appears to be. So to remove that perception, only through study it is possible. So any problem, unless you study and understand the problem, you cannot solve it. Any problem, whatever problems we come across, whether it is even an external problem, if some machine fails, you have to find out the reason why it failed. So you arrive at the root cause. Okay, there was a failure of some part in the machine. So once the part is replaced, it will function. So unless we go and understand why the machine failed, you cannot solve the problem. Similarly, our problems are due to misunderstanding. Misunderstanding can be removed only through knowledge. And this knowledge is what is available in our Shastras. So ultimately, if we want to remove all those misconceptions and understand the root cause of all our sufferings and the reason for our multiple births and deaths, then we need to study the knowledge that is available in our Shastras, which we need the right source, the right way to understand. Because if we try and do it on our own, we may end up having more misconceptions. So it is but important to find the right person, the right teacher to impart this knowledge, so that our misconceptions are removed altogether, completely. So this is the basic understanding of the oneness of the total and self. Now finally, the next question is obviously, what do I gain out of it? Okay, I understood all these things, but what do I gain out of it? This forms the last part of this text, which we will see in the next class.